What are the pros of a deaf student going to the school for the deaf?
That's one of the pros.
Yeah.
They learn all of the deaf history and culture, whereas in mainstream public
Yeah.
schools, oftentimes you won't get that. I mean, it would be the responsibility of the teacher of the deaf during that, maybe 1 hour session that they have to maybe add some of that in there. Otherwise, they're not learning about deaf culture.
Right. And quite honestly, I'm a hearing teacher. Like, I'm not a deaf role model.
Yeah.
I can teach about it, but I'm not deaf. I can't relate with them on that natural level, right? So it's so important. It's amazing. The School for the Deaf, everybody signs. The cooks, the cafeteria ladies, the counselors, the dorm parents, the playground supervisors, the bus drivers, everybody.
What are some of the cons of a deaf student attending a school for the deaf?
One of the biggest concerns I have way more pros than I have cons, but one of my biggest concerns is the students are there until they graduate at age 18, and many of these students, they go and when they're in kindergarten and they grow up at the School for the Deaf, then they come home to Appleton and they're strangers in their own environment. They don't have the connections that the kids who go to public school have as far as resources.
Yeah. And you can lose your sense of identity too. Like they created like who they were there.
That
in
deaf
Delavan,
identity.
And then they leave and they're like, all of that is gone.
Yeah.
And they may not have those deaf connections here in Appleton.
Deafness, deaf identity. There's the academic, which we understand, but that social, emotional piece is really big. And so often I'll see students come up to the high school in the public school here, and they'll have some pretty significant social, emotional issues. They're especially the hard of hearing kids. I think they have it harder because they have to play the game of nodding and understanding, and where they're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what's everybody talking about? It's going so fast. There's turn taking. I can't keep up.
Yeah.
They get to high school, they're tired, right? And so they tend to suffer a little more socially. Not all of them. I don't want to I'm generalizing, but we do see that.
What are the benefits of going to a single group charter school?
You foster pride in your own ethnicity, and if you're a person like me who wasn't really that immersed with their own culture, you become proud of it, and you start to learn a lot about it. We had Hmong culture classes, which is kind of different from other language classes or foreign language classes.
Hmong students attending HAPA gain a confidence they don't get in other schools. We believe that children who are allowed to gain a better understanding of their culture also gain a better understanding of who they are as a person. They are able to be themselves and to value themselves. This self-confidence goes a long way improving their educational outcomes, but it goes beyond schoolwork and into the rest of their lives. At HAPA, parents are able to be encouraged in their students' learning because they do not experience a language barrier. Educators specialize in issues relevant to this population. For example, the majority of teachers are dual certified in their age range or area of concentration, as well as holding ELL certification. Specialized training takes place around issues common to the Hmong community, such as the lingering effects of refugee camps and how poverty affects the Hmong community. Trauma-informed care was practiced here long before it became the new thing.
Do you see any cons when applying or thinking about going to this school?
I saw some cons. When I came to Lawrence, I wasn't prepared for the culture shock. Being just with 99.9% Hmong students, you're shocked when you come to a predominantly white institution and you don't know how to act with them, and the difference in behavior and all that stuff.
Do you believe that there should be the option for single schools?
Definitely think every ethnicity and culture and whatever you believe in should have that ability to go there, because it's just like a good way to preserve your own culture and all that stuff. And why not?
I can only speak from the cultural side of it, and I can only speak from what I see in the hallways. And when I walk down the hallway, especially before school, I see groups of students.
Yeah.
And who's hanging with who? The jocks are hanging with the jocks. The Asian students are with the Asian students. The theater students are with the theater students. We flock to our people, right?
Yeah.
And that's just normal human tendencies. So I know in Appleton we have many Hmong students, and we have ELL classrooms. So we have self-contained Hmong or ELL classrooms, and they also go out into the mainstream. And so they do have that support, and there are many, many Hmong in the school. Our deaf kids don't have that, so that's different. They're very isolated in the public school.
Yeah.
Culturally speaking, oh my gosh, like there's things that the Hmong culture does that's completely different from what the traditional Caucasian culture does. And while I think it's important to be together, that complete isolation and separation, and we don't have that. Like if I look at the Hmong culture, they still have verbal language, you can communicate. Deaf people don't have anybody to communicate with. So when they get to go to the school for the deaf, they have natural language happening, right? And so when it's a hearing versus a speaking versus a visual language, I do think there's some differences. I think there should be opportunities for cultures to gather together.